As a child, Robynn Sims always thought her father's work as a chimney sweep was unique, but for men only. After years of higher education and traveling, she came back to Kansas to join him in the family business. Only after partnering with her father did she begin to see the reasons for choosing this unique vocation, as she now discusses in The Reluctant Apprentice.
To return home is to return to something familiar, something known. But in 2015, I returned to Kansas to begin a trade I knew only peripherally. I'd spent most of my late 20s finding myself through travel and my early 30s pursuing a master's degree. Through luck and providence, I became the Reluctant Apprentice. Though my parents met in California, my dad's roots are in Kansas, and in 1982, he finished building this home. Growing up on the farm, 20 acres of rural property southeast of Buhler, nestled on the Little Arkansas, my twin sister Laurel and I lived an idyllic existence full of warm fires, wild woods, and river adventures. After our first winter, Dad ordered a chimney cleaning kit, which was in line with his desire for self-sufficiency. Once he cleaned our chimney, he decided this would be a trade worth pursuing because he and my mom had left corporate life in search of entrepreneurial endeavors. Even though the American writer Nathaniel Hawthorne resented the stove for imprisoning fire, our ancient friend, I still glimpsed that friend and came to love being near the stove on winter days. This stove was the heart of our farmhouse and our only source of heat. The stove and the fire were our friends indeed. The winters kept us near the stove. My sister and I loved being outside. Often for our June birthday, we went to the zoo. Most days we played by the river and loved gathering toads. When we started school, Mom encouraged us to pursue learning both in the classroom and in nature. In the early 1980s, Dad began to work full-time as a chimney sweep. He joined a fabled trade. Legend has it that in England, the top hats and tails were passed to the chimney sweeps from the undertakers. He wore the uniform for a few years until a chance encounter with a chandelier had him trading in his top hat for a K-State ball cap. Since Dad's work was flexible, our parents attended all our ball games and school events up through high school. My future plans involved teaching and travel. Since I was a woman, the sweeping life was not for me, though my mother would soon join my dad. In the mid-1990s, Mom ended her time at Radio Kansas to work with Dad full-time. She managed the office, calling customers and scheduling appointments. Occasionally in grad school, I ventured out with Dad, but my focus was on finding someone to take over the business when he retired, and it would not be me. When my mother passed away in November 2014, I knew I needed to come home. It took me 6 months to get there. I was living in Portland, Oregon, and Dad flew out to help me move. After getting tattoos together, we began our 2,500-mile epic road trip through California, New Mexico, and then home to Kansas. I know Dad was glad I joined him, but to be honest, I didn't know what I was doing. Our work is simple but not easy. To make sure our customers' chimney is safe, and if it isn't safe, what can we do to make it safe? Poetry seemed more familiar and safe. In late winter 2017, I found an essay contest listed in the Hutchinson News. I entered and was chosen as the subject for a short film about my favorite poem. Ava and her cameraman came to our house in the summer and listened to my story about how I loved William Stafford's poem, This Book, and how the images in the poem paired with who I was becoming, how this vocation seemed to be choosing me. Parallel with my apprenticeship is another partnership. My boyfriend, Andrew, an aviation mechanic in Wichita, has assisted on some chimney jobs, and I'm grateful for his support. Owning this business allows freedom to go on adventures, a canoeing trip down the Arkansas, a wedding in Atlanta, a visit to see friends in Seattle. We've had others help us too. In this profession, it's always good to know a welder. Mark and his wife Mary have been family friends for a long time. Over the years, Mark has assisted with tuck pointing, installing chimney pipe, and fabricating parts. Though Dick Van Dyke makes it look easy, early on I had to address a recurring fear of heights. After some practice determination after watching Dad shimmy up steep roofs, I slowly replaced my fear with confidence. Praying as I went up the ladder helped, and meeting Brenna. A year after I moved home, Dad and I took a month-long road trip back to Oregon, and our friend Brenna joined us. After bonding on this adventure, Brenna worked with us the following fall. Her fearlessness of heights and her fierce independence added another facet to my story. In 2018, we returned again to Portland for the National Chimney Sweep Convention, which gave us a chance to make friends and tell stories. We met a sweep from Alabama who sings songs from Mary Poppins, and a father-son team from Arizona similar to me and Dad. Many sweeps were surprised that I went out on the job with Dad, because this is still largely a man's profession. Over the last 4 years, Dad and I have built a solid partnership on trust and respect. We enjoy our work and we pace ourselves to allow for time to connect with our customers. I admire my dad and see why he chose this work. Over 3 decades ago, my dad, Mike Sims, the visionary, saw that he wanted a life defined by his rules and his choices. He found a need in the community and works with integrity to provide for his family, keep his own healthy, easygoing pace, and take care of his customers. One of those customers is Mary, who moved to town a couple years ago. Dad and I checked her stove because Dad had installed the chimney for the previous owner. Also an independent woman, Mary and I have coffee once or twice a week. She respects my work, and I appreciate her friendship. Late, at the beginning of cold, Stafford writes, "You push your breath toward home. Silence waits at the door. You stamp, go in, start the fire." My love of that ancient friend began decades ago in the farmhouse and was nurtured by acceptance and friendship. Now I am no longer reluctant to join my father in his vocation.